This is Johnny, the chubby, Caucasian, Christian, closeted conservative. Some might say I'm everything wrong with the world, but don't take their word for it. Make up your own mind. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Chubby Caucasian Christian Closeted Conservative. If you listen to me on YouTube, my last episode was taken down for hate speech. I listed a ton of facts from PubMed research studies that I guess YouTube did not favor. Now, before we get into that, I made an argument in my last episode that the radical progressive left is going to attempt in the next couple of years to normalize MAPS, which stands for minor attracted person. Now, that might be a radical stance for some people, and I did criticize them in my previous episode, and maybe that might have been hate speech. Is it warranted? I don't know. Personally, I do not want MAPS babysitting my child. I want to talk about why I got removed off of YouTube, why my previous episode got removed off of YouTube, and maybe some statistics that I listed in my previous episode that you might have missed. But before we get into that, I actually had an individual reach out to me and post on my Mind's social media page. I posted a Snopes article that was published on July 14th, 2018. And this Snopes article was basically a fact check on this flag that had gone viral on social media. And they stated that this flag is not related to MAPS in any way. You see how the normalization has started? I use the term MAPS because I'm afraid of being censored on YouTube. The normalization of this has already began. So I posted this article, and my main argument for this article was not that it was wrong, that this flag is associated with MAPS. My main thing I was trying to point out with this article is similar to my episode today. This article referred to individuals who might be considered pedophiles as MAPS. We've seen this happen previously before, and I believe within the next 10 to 15 years, MAPS will be the appropriate term for individuals who are minor attracted people. So I actually had an individual reach out to me and post on this. This guy reached out and said, "So what do you think of me for finding little girls around 9 years old attractive?" Now, most states have a 3 to 4 years difference for consensual intercourse. So depending on this person's age, it might not be illegal. So I replied saying, "Knowing very little about your current age or situation, I would remind you that there are laws in place in the United States regarding age of consent. I would encourage you to reach out for psychiatric help. As a father, I would encourage you to stay away from a vulnerable population. In the past, I've dealt with addictions and I've removed myself from that community and seeked help from a professional. As a Christian, I would encourage you to seek after the Lord. He died so that we may live, and will also remind myself that there is only one competent judge and I am not it. In order to remain consistent, I can recognize no one is perfect, but it's difficult to commend, praise, encourage, or normalize behaviors that directly conflict with my values and that might cause physical or psychological harm to another individual." He replied, "What do you think can psychiatrists and therapists do for me? I already talked to some. I'm not dangerous. I don't think there are any reason for me to stay away from children. I don't want to harm them. I want a consensual romantic relationship with them. I don't want to talk to them into anything. If they don't have feelings for me, they don't have feelings for me, and that's fine." Now, it's funny. I began to type a reply where I quoted scripture and attempted not to condemn this individual or judge this individual. But as I typed that, I became angry at myself. The entire reason I started this show is because I was already silenced by friends and family. I was already told that my opinion didn't matter. I was told that I am a chubby Caucasian Christian closeted conservative, therefore my opinion does not matter. So I erased what I was originally typing and I wrote the following. "I'm not sure why you and radical liberal Larrys and Lindas want to normalize that behavior. Assuming a lot about your age, it's not normal. I believe you have proven my points. This is the big push in the next 5 to 10 years down the road to normalize pedophilia. This article references organizations such as Before You Act. I would strongly suggest reaching out to them. It's a slippery slope. One day everyone looks the other way while a man breaks women's sports records. The next is politically correct to use the term MAPS, and tomorrow it's acceptable for you to score dates at Chuck E. Cheese. I don't understand why. I had a similar philosophy about therapists. What could they do for me? But I went through a dark time in my life and I found one that could help me. I used to sit on the sidelines and keep my opinion to myself, but I must defend this amazing gift God gave us of intimacy between a man and a woman in the union of marriage. And this individual has yet to reply. We're going on about 2 weeks here where they have not replied. Now, two things that are very scary about this post. Minds is said to be a radical right safe haven where conspiracy theories are indulged and talked about and just amplified. Obviously, that is not true. And another thing that scares me is I have had over 1,000 people look at my Minds page and no one else posted about this map. YouTube, let me tell you this right now, I will never commend or approve of individuals attracted to young children. Do you know how impressionable and gullible children are at that age? We're talking about 3rd or 4th graders. Now, I don't remember the exact grade I was in, but I remember almost coming to blows with a kid because he told me Santa was not real. I had a friend in elementary school, the entire time we were in elementary school and part of middle school, who did not eat his lunch with utensils. And he didn't always have like a sandwich. He didn't always have finger foods. We are talking about a very impressionable age here. And the fact that this individual says that he doesn't want to talk them into anything, even though that might be true from his point of view, it is impossible to accomplish. Now let's get to the hate speech that I spewed in my last episode. For those of you on YouTube, I'm just going to run through a couple of statistics because you missed them. And I'm going to attempt to use the proper language and quote directly from these PubMed research studies. You hear me, YouTube? PubMed is the U.S. National Institute of Health free digital archive of biomedical and life science journal literature. It's part of the NIH, which is overseen by your precious little Dr. Fauci. Both of them were published in late 2016. One is titled Suicide and Suicidal Behavior Among Transgender Persons. One was published in December of 2016 that talks about hormone therapy for transgender patients. The very beginning of the suicide study says that the suicide attempt rate among transgender persons ranges from 32 to 50%. The hormone therapy for transgender patients research study tells us that transgender persons make up between 0.3 to 0.5% of our population. That is in this PubMed article overseen by Mr. Science himself. This suicidal behavior research study goes on to make the argument that as an individual gets older, they are less likely to attempt and commit suicide. However, when they are younger, the rate is significantly higher. In the United States, 41% of transgender persons have attempted suicide at least once in their life. In San Francisco, the prevalence of attempted suicide among transgender persons is 32%, and among younger age, it is 50%. There was another PubMed article that I posted on all of my social media platforms that estimated the average suicide rate for transgender persons is between 32 to 50%. 56% of transgender persons have discontinued their education at either primary level or secondary level. 14% of the transgender persons consulted mental health professionals for their gender dysphoria, mostly because they were referred to by the general physician. The rest, we're talking about 86%, the rest of the respondents have sought help at traditional healers and transgender community leaders. So I'm sure that when they reach out to these traditional healers and transgender community leaders, I'm sure that they're not being guided a certain way. And 31 and 15% of transgender persons are at high risk for tobacco and alcohol use. Now, when we look at the psychological autopsy for transgender persons who have completed suicide, 64.3% of them do it because because of a breakup of a romantic relationship. 9.5% complete suicide because of refusal of gender/sex reassignment by their family members. And another 9.5% do it because of financial reasons. Now, I'm not going to go too much into this, but there are many studies out there of how estrogen and testosterone affect individuals' hearts. To stay on the liberal Larry and Linda's good side, any individual who identifies as a human and has a mix of cardiovascular disease and diabetes has two comorbidities, which are two comorbidities that a lot of Americans face because of our eating habits. Another number in this hormone therapy for transgender patients PubMed research study found that 49% of trans women in San Francisco were taking hormones not prescribed by a clinic. That statistic is mind-blowing. I am sorry that I'm concerned about saving lives. Anyone taking prescription medication, I would encourage you to get it from a doctor. And anyone contemplating suicide, I would encourage you to seek help. I get concerned when I see life-ending habits make up a large percentage of a very small minority. And maybe, just maybe, we should rethink the way we are going about this, especially if people are still dying. Let me make an analogy from my perspective. A major comorbidity with COVID was obesity. Now, I wouldn't consider myself morbidly obese. Like I said, chubby Caucasian Christian closeted conservative. I just got a little bit of extra stuff around the middle. But once I found out that that was a comorbidity, I attempted to go for walks just about every day. Now, the last couple of weeks, my son was sick and I'm still recovering from a cold myself. It was not COVID. We all tested negative for COVID. And I did other stuff that the CDC suggested, and I don't want to get into vaccines. That argument is over. People are already very entrenched in their beliefs. They've either gotten vaccinated or they don't want to get vaccinated, and there's nothing that can change their mind. I would encourage you to talk to your doctor and come up with the plan that is right for you. But my personal doctor, the CDC, and CNN listed obesity as a comorbidity. So I began to go for walks every day, and I was walking close to 2 miles. It was 1.9 if anybody wants to be really specific. But I was just doing a loop around the neighborhood, and it just so happened to be close to 2 miles. I saw an issue, and I tried to find a different way to fix it. Now, the science shows that individuals who are physically active and are in relatively good health do better against COVID. Again, I am not a doctor, and you should not take any medical advice from me. But walking 2 miles a day is good for my physical and mental health just in general. I saw an issue, and instead of sitting on the couch and just accepting it, I attempted to do something about it. Now, if you've been following me on any of the social media, you would know that I ask a question about this demographic with a very high suicide rate. I'm not going to do it here because I would get removed from YouTube and I would get most likely a hard strike. And I'll make one final comparison. We had hundreds of protests where police were injured, police precincts were attempted to be burned down, churches were burned down because we thought a minority group was treated unfairly by police officers. There was a lot of mostly peaceful protests where people were injured and killed, property and buildings were destroyed and burned down, all because we believed that there was a group of minorities treated unfairly by police officers. And there was a group of people out there who believed that that needed to change. And all I'm trying to do is say the exact same thing, except I'm only saying it. I don't see how what I said in my previous episode is hurtful or hate speech. And I'm only assuming that what they struck my previous episode for with the hate speech, I'm only assuming it involved individuals who suffer from gender dysphoria. And it's interesting that I've asked a similar question on all of my social media platforms, Rumble, BitChute. They didn't have an issue with it. Now I have one other question for you. And this is going to go back to the individual that I had a conversation with on Minds. Who is at higher risk of being investigated and observed by a 3-letter agency? agency. This chubby Caucasian Christian closeted conservative who asks questions, who does research, and is concerned about the future of this country and is worried about a minority group that has a very large percentage of suicide attempts. An individual like me who is concerned about maybe one day this country might normalize pedophilia, or an individual who's attracted to 9-year-olds, who posted on my Minds page that they are attracted to 9-year-olds. I guarantee you, it's far more likely that I am being observed and investigated by a 3-letter agency than that pedophile. Let me tell you what, I have a pregnant wife and a 4-year-old. I am up just about every night in the middle of the night. So it would be nice if we had an armed agent outside watching for observing us to make sure that we're not doing anything wrong. And also, my wife is really not into some kinky stuff. So if you do get any recordings of some of our glorious lovemaking, I would really love a copy. Just help a brother out, please. But you know what, YouTube? I appreciate it. I appreciate taking my video down. I will wear it as a badge of honor. I've already posted the email on all of my social media platforms. Please go out there and like it. But I really wanted to talk about the National Guard soldier who drowned in the Rio Grande a couple weeks ago and just the hypocrisy that goes along with it. So in the very beginning here, I'm going to be referencing a Washington Post article and an NBC article. I just would like to thank two of these media outlets for setting time aside to write an article. The Washington Post sent a whole half a page on it, and NBC News, including 2 pictures, almost came to 2. While when we get to some other articles relating to incidents at the borders, they decided to take a lot more time to explain and control the narrative with those stories. So this is from the NBC News article. If you want to go read it yourself, it takes you about 3 minutes to read it. All the articles and all the videos that I'm going to reference and play today are all posted on all of my social media outlets. So I'm just going to read a little bit of highlights from this story. Specialist Bishop E. Evans vanished on Friday as he served on Operation Lone Star in Eagle Pass. It's about 140 miles southwest of San Antonio, on the border with Mexico. His body was found about 9:30 a.m. near Eagle Pass Bridge 1. That's what State Senator Ronald Gutierrez told NBC News. Reportedly, Evans had jumped into the river where the water from the city goes out, creating a flow that's difficult to swim. Gutierrez later was quoted saying, "The current is much stronger there, and unfortunately, this young man succumbed to that current pretty quickly." Gonzalez, who's a U.S. representative, Republican from Texas, stated, "This young soldier made the ultimate sacrifice in the name of protecting and serving our country. He will never be forgotten." NBC decides to tell us the 22-year-old Arlington native was a field artilleryman assigned to a regiment in New Barnesfields outside San Antonio. Now, I just read to you probably more than half of the NBC News article, so I appreciate your time, NBC News. Now let's get to this amazing Washington Post article. The article is 8 paragraphs long, and 2 of those paragraphs are quotes and 1 sentence. I am going to read you more than half of the actual article. Texas officials have recovered the body of National Guard soldier who drowned in the Rio Grande last week while trying to rescue migrants attempting to cross the border at the river. Evans was one of thousands of Texas Army National Guard soldiers deployed by Governor Greg Abbott under orders to help secure the border. Abbott said he was heartbroken by Bishop's death. "We are eternally grateful for the way Specialist Evans heroically served his state and country," the governor said. The department said Evans was trying to rescue 2 migrants in distress near Eagle Pass. Both of those migrants survived and are in the custody of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection officials. Something that I found right off the bat with both of these articles, this is probably the first NBC and Washington Post article that I've ever read where the victim is African American and they decided not to break down each individual's demographic. I would love to know where the migrants came from. If it wasn't for the pictures on the NBC News article, I would have never known that Specialist Evans was a minority. This 22-year-old died around April 25th, 2022. That's when they recovered his body. Now, about 6 months prior to that, we had a incident happen at the border that everybody talked about. And the incident involves Haitian migrants who were strapped. I'm quoting my president there. Strapped by U.S. Border Patrol agents. Just to compare this to the Evan Bishop story, MSN decided to write close to 3 pages about it. And there is a Reuters article article as well that is close to 3 pages. Both of these articles are well over double that the left-wing media decided to write on Specialist Evan Bishops. I'm just going to read from the MSN article just a little bit about this incident where the individuals were strapped, just because I believe the hypocrisy is astounding. On Monday, I'm reading from the MSN article. On Monday, September 21st, 2021, disturbing images of U.S. Border Patrol agents apparently using horse reins to whip Haitian migrants attempting to cross the border flooded the internet, leaving many shocked and outraged at the alleged inhumane treatment of many people desperate to escape a country racked with poverty and struggling in the midst of ongoing political strife. The term inhumane here is honestly a complete joke. The cages down there, the children being left at the border and sex traffickers coming over, that is inhumane. Leaving children in the desert is inhumane. I had a lot of mixed feelings when I first observed this. My president, I'm going to play it later, saw these pictures, including CNN and all the left-wing media, saw these pictures in this video and said, this is a white person strapping, and I'm quoting that, a black person. Therefore, this is racist. I'm going to continue to read this MSN article. Although it's unclear whether any of the agents actually made contact with any of the migrants using the horse reins, the optics are bad. You know what, MSN? You could have put that up top, that we don't actually know. The photos of the U.S. Border Patrol agents and Haitian migrants that were captured can be described as depicting nothing less than inhumane treatment by the agents who appear to be physically assaulting frightened black Haitians. It's interesting because just the sentence I read before said it didn't make it look like they made contact. In some photos, it appears that the Haitians waiting in the river were being trampled by the Border Patrol agents who were on horseback. The border agent pictured in this specific photo on the far right even appears to be smiling as Haitian migrants attempt to talk to him. The same agent can be seen yielding the whip, threatening in other photos. This article also quotes Mrs. Saki. I have seen some of the footage. I don't have the full context. I can't imagine what context would make this appropriate. She is going to fit in fine at MSNBC. More than 10,000 Haitians are still attempting to cross into the United States in the hopes of finding safety and security, despite the fact in recent weeks that the Biden administration has deported many others even through as recently as May 2021. The same administration granted temporary protection status to undocumented Haitian living in the U.S. Of course, we got to throw that in there at the end. Now, let's start from the beginning with this. I know I've played this audio many times for you, but it's important. This is from March 24th, 2021.
The VP today, because she's the most qualified person.
She's the most qualified person. Joseph Biden says that.
Mexico and the Northern Triangle.
That he's going to put her in charge of the border.
We're going to need help in stemming the movement of so many folks stemming the migration to our southern border. And, back when I was vice president,
just to clear something,
this next clip is from
for the last 24 hours or so. Can you commit right now that you will indeed visit the U.S.?
This is from June of 2021. She still has not been to the border.
And I have before.
And I will.
Listen, anybody, especially if you're from California, I've spent a lot of time on the border.
Remember, she would later, President Trump would later go down to the border, and just so happened that she would decide to go that weekend as well, or the Friday before. So she's put in charge. 3 months later, she still has not gone to the border.
Before, I will go again. But when I'm in Guatemala, dealing with root causes, I think we should have a conversation about what's going on in Guatemala.
Okay, so she still hasn't gone to the border. She has not solved the issue. This is from September 24th, 2021. He delivers remarks about COVID.
You said on the campaign trail that you were going to restore
and
the
he's
moral
asked
standing of
about the
that
border.
You were going to immediately end Trump's assault on the dignity of immigrant communities. Given what we saw at the border this week, have you failed in that promise? And this is happening under your watch. Do you take responsibility for the chaos that's unfolding?
of course I take responsibility. I'm president, but
I take responsibility for the chaos happening at the border because I am president. I am just assuming that this would be this administration's entire platform. Any incident that happens at the border would be their responsibility.
Chaos that's unfolding.
Of course I take responsibility. I'm president, but it was horrible what to see, as you saw.
to see people treated
This is
like
September
they did,
24th,
horses
2021.
running them over, people being strapped.
People being
It's
strapped.
outrageous. I promise you, those people will pay.
People will
be an
pay
investigation on
for
right now, and there will be
supposedly
consequences.
whipping
There will be
Haitian
consequences.
migrants.
It's an embarrassment, but it's beyond an embarrassment. It's dangerous. It's wrong. It sends the wrong message around the world. It sends the wrong message at home. It's simply not who we are. Thank you.
This is Jen Psaki on April 25th. Remember, we just heard all about people being strapped at the border and how President Biden takes responsibility for how U.S. Border Patrol agents treat illegal immigrants trying to get into this country. So you would just assume if a U.S. Border Patrol agent lost their life in this chaos, that this administration would take responsibility for that. Again, this is April 25th, 2022. Kamala Harris was supposed to find root causes of this over a year ago.
Thank you, Jen. I don't believe the White House so far has commented on the death of Bishop Evans, the 22-year-old National Guard specialist who drowned trying to save 2 migrants. I wanted to give you an opportunity to say.
The 2 migrants survived, by the way. I would love to know where they are.
Confirmation that his body had been found was confirmed just a couple of hours ago. I would note that, of course, our heart goes out to his family and to his loved ones.
And I accept
to confirm all the
responsibility for
specific
this.
Details. He
Right?
went missing on Friday following his selfless efforts to rescue 2 migrants who appeared to be drowning and who were trying to cross a river in Mexico that went to the United States, went into the U.S., of course. We know that National Guard personnel, including him, risk their lives every day to serve and protect others. And again, our hearts go out to his family. I don't have any, in case you may ask, I don't have any updates at this moment in terms of the president's outreach, but if that is something I can update you on this afternoon, I will let you know.
Does the White House feel any responsibility?
Oh,
his
I
death,
like the use of that word.
There's reporting that he lost his life, allegedly trying to save 2 migrants who were smuggling drugs. This is a problem that, you know, the
Supposedly
administration has
smuggling
been facing for some
drugs.
time, and is obviously, as we've been discussing, getting some criticism on. Does the White House feel at all responsible, and what more can you offer to people who, you know, are on the border, in border communities, who are experiencing loss and trials like this?
Well, of course, we are mourning the loss of his life, and we are grateful for the
And
work
yes,
of every National
we
Guardsman. I would
hold-
note that
we
the
feel
National Guard
responsibility
works for
because
the
we are
state,
president.
and so he is an employee of the Texas National
Wait,
Guard. And
what?
His
Hold on, we gotta go back to that. Don't they accept responsibility because they're president?
And so he is an employee of the Texas National Guard, and his efforts and his operation were directed by there, not by the federal government.
Okay, so we take responsibilities for illegal immigrants attempting to come into this country illegally. We take responsibility for the inhumane treatment of them, supposed inhumane treatment of them. But when a border agent loses their life, their orders come from the Texas government and not from the federal government.
In this effort, in this apparatus. We've long stated that our immigration system is broken. There needs to be more done to invest in smarter security, to have a more effective asylum processing system, and we would welcome any efforts for any.
What does she
elected
mean
officials
by
to work with us on
security?
that.
A lot of the border communities often, you know, say that they've requested more from the federal government, more manpower to help manage these kinds of issues. Is that being looked at? Is that being?
Can you give me a more specific request or a specific person or?
You mentioned that, you know, this specialist was a National Guard. Obviously, you know, the state is in charge of that. States are in charge of that. But there have been requests from the Texas governor, to send more, to help people who are in this position at the border, who are now trying to deal with an influx of migrants that they know is going to only increase, as you just mentioned, after Title 42 is lifted. You talked about having a humanitarian, sort of system in place to deal with people coming across and increase vaccinations and that kind of thing. But in terms of, law enforcement presence at the border.
Well, I would just say if we just dial it back a few years to kind of what we inherited here, The former president invested billions of dollars in
So
a
it's
border
Donald
wall
Trump's
that
fault.
was never going to work or be effective. Instead of working towards comprehensive immigration reform, as part of the president's proposal he put forward on his first day in office, he proposed investing in smarter security at the border, something he'd be happy to work with governors on, and certainly we're open to having that conversation whenever they're ready to do that. Go ahead.
Now, that's an interesting answer to blame it on Donald Trump, because Obama actually gave a press conference in September of 2014 about issues at the border.
Controversy.
So let's hear what
Even
our
as we are a
God
nation
King
of immigrants, we're also
Obama
a
has
nation
to
of laws.
say.
Undocumented workers broke our immigration laws.
Yes, they did.
And I believe that they must be held accountable.
Wow, that word
Especially
accountable
those who
again.
may be dangerous.
May be dangerous.
But today, our immigration system is broken.
Whoa! Our immigration system is broken, but this is 2014. Donald Trump doesn't become president until 2 years. He's the one who broke our immigration system.
Families who enter our country the right way and play by the rules watch others flout the rules.
Yep.
Business owners who offer their workers good wages and benefits see the competition exploit undocumented immigrants by paying them far less.
Agree.
All of us take offense to anyone who reaps the rewards of living in America without taking on the responsibilities of living in America.
Same for they're bringing over drugs, fentanyl, which is killing people, sex traffickers, slave traffickers. I mean, it's awful what's happening down there. But this is 2014, right? Trump hasn't become president yet to mess it up.
Meanwhile, I worked with Congress on a comprehensive fix. And last year, 68 Democrats, Republicans, and independents came together to pass a bipartisan bill in the Senate. It wasn't perfect. It was a compromise. But it reflected common sense. It would have
Common
doubled
sense.
the number of Border Patrol agents.
Doubled the Border Patrol agents.
Undocumented immigrants a pathway to citizenship.
Undocumented immigrants, a pathway to citizenship, which I agree with. You have broken our laws. If you come out now and start playing by the rules and paying your fair share, there needs to be a background check. They need to pay their fair share. And if they pass that, then welcome to our country. Welcome to our country.
If they paid a fine, started paying their taxes,
Obama wanted to charge them a fine.
and went to the back of the line.
The hypocrisy is astounding. It would be laughable if people were not dying. And this was Obama's words were from 2014. They definitely contradict what radical liberal Larrys and Lindas are saying today. But that is how far the Democratic Party has moved since 2014. They have moved so far left and progressive that they make Obama look like a moderate. Thank you for joining me today. I'm sorry I haven't posted an episode in such a long time. We have been sick, and a 4-year-old just being sick, it takes up so much time. And if you only listen to me on YouTube, you are missing an episode, and it appears that I've been away even longer than what I have been. But I appreciate everybody listen. Please rate, like, comment, and subscribe. If I'm going to get shows removed from YouTube, I need all the help I can get. If there's anybody out there who can help me push back on the removal of this episode, I'm willing to hear anybody who's got anything to say. Please search the Chubby Caucasian Christian Closeted Conservative and look for my eagle. I had a family member paint that eagle, and I loved it so much that she gave me the original. She has a Redbubble account. So go to Redbubble, search Robin N. Brown. That's Robin as the bird, the letter N, color brown. She's very talented, very patriotic, loves the Lord, has all sorts of beautiful pieces of work. So please, go to Facebook, Tumblr, Minds. I just started a Twitter page. Search the Chubby Caucasian Christian Closeted Conservative and follow me. If you follow me on Minds, you'll be able to see as soon as this map replies. You can also find all of my shows on Rumble, BitChute, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find all but one also on YouTube. Thank you again for listening, and we will see you later.